will never bother me again the rest of my life. I ain't giving them pension. I can't. There's good friends of mine out there fucking say, well, he's divorced, you have to do his stuff. That's why I said to you before, you don't understand what the money is. The most of me is that the boss is your boss.
Back to Mob Talk Radio. A lot of people have been emailing the show asking about Donald Trump's mob ties. Now, we've done this before. We've talked about it before. And I was going to sort of pull the video that we did off of YouTube and just kind of play that MP3 rather than regurgitate it. But I decided, you know, what the hell? I'll just put everything together. It's not a very long thing. But I want to make it clear. This is not a politics thing for me. Because there may be some people that hear this and go, oh, he's a non-Trump guy. Now, that is true. I am not a Trump supporter, okay? But that doesn't mean I'm a fucking liberal either. But I'm not doing this because of any other reason than people just ask what the ties between Trump and the mob are. A lot of politicians have had ties to the mob. It's just the reality of it, right? So I just don't want people to tongue-in-cheek this and take it and go, oh, he's anti-Trump. This is why he's doing it. Absolutely not. I am anti-Trump, and if I wanted to make that known, believe me, there's a lot of things I could say, but I just don't give a fuck about politics enough to even just go there. I really don't, because it's my opinion all politicians lie for the most part, right? Your vote really doesn't fucking matter, but at the end of the day, besides all of that, if you really believe that the president of the United States can do what he wants and makes laws and controls the country, he doesn't. He's a figurehead, nothing more, nothing less. So, like I said, number one, any association or assertion, I want to make it clear, 100%, Donald Trump has had his hands in the pockets of the mob, and they've had their hands in his pockets as well. Any assertion that would not be the case is bullshit, right? And the fact is, there's a lot more to it than you might think. For starters, Roy Cohn, and I'm not going to regurgitate all of that, but, he was a former disgraced lawyer that we've talked about him. If you go to our YouTube page and look for Roy Cohn, we did a whole show on him. As a matter of fact, Roy Cohn's, I think, granddaughter got in touch with me the other day, saying it was a great show on her father or her grandfather, etc. And most of what Donald Trump learned about the seedier side of life actually came from Roy Cohn. And Cohn was a Hollywood fixer, a political fixer for criminals and crooks. And if you guys want to hear all about Roy Cohn, go to our playlist and look for it. It's there. He was the house lawyer for Tony Salerno, Paul Castellano, Joe Bonanno, Carmine Galante, and Vito Genovese. And there was a reason why they picked Roy to be their lawyer. If he couldn't beat them to death in court, he had tactics on the outside of the courtroom that he would employ to make sure the point got driven home. Donald Trump saw this firsthand, and he learned a lot from Roy Cohn, and those associations with the Mafia helped propel Donald Trump, not just in business, but into the White House. Any denial by Trump about this would be a bull-faced lie. In the 1970s and 80s, when Trump was building Trump Towers, he wanted to use ready-mix concrete. Most of the structure and high-rises were actually steel, but Trump wanted to go the cheaper route, right? Using ready-mix was a way to get the job done a lot faster, and it kept the workers being slowed down. So in other words, if you're waiting for more steel girders, it shuts down. With ready-mix, you just keep going, right? And just so you know, Paul Castellano and Tony Salerno and the rest of the Mafia at the time controlled the concrete business in New York. And at the time that there was actually a strike within the union, and within those unions, and nobody could get concrete at the time. I mean, nobody. Everything was at a standstill, and the only man who got concrete during that strike, Donald Trump. and he got it through Roy Cohn. And Roy Cohn set up a meeting between Donald Trump and Tony Salerno. And that meeting was at Roy Cohn's townhouse. Donald Trump met Tony Salerno face to face. Trump would come to an agreement with Tony Salerno in which he paid more for the concrete, but Salerno ensured that he would be the only one that would get concrete. Trump has denied this story his whole entire life, but Tony Salerno's indictment in the Concrete Club specifically mentions Donald Trump's Trump Tower, and that one of the provisions was an $8 million payment through Trump Development to Salerno's concrete company. So you can't deny it, you prick. And it wouldn't be the last time that Trump used the mafia for his own gains. The indictment on which Salerno was convicted in 1988 and sent to prison for the rest of his life where he dies listed the $8 million contract for concrete at Trump Plaza, an East Side high-rise apartment building, as one of the acts establishing that S&A was a part of a racketeering enterprise. While the concrete business was central to the case, the trial also proved extortion, narcotics, rigged union elections, and murder by Genovese and the Gambino crime families in what Michael Chertoff, the chief prosecutor, called the largest and most vicious criminal business in the history of the United States. Trump was especially cozy with the Philadelphia Mafia as well, especially Nicky Scarfo and Phil Leonetti and Salvatore Testa. So when casinos were opening, Trump wanted to buy the land where his casino was located. The problem was that Phil Testa owned the property. And if Trump wanted it, he had to pay double. And through Leonetti, Trump paid double the price for the property, which the money was funneled through Scarf Inc., which was Nicky Scarfo's construction company, minus the 25% cut back to Scarfo, and then it was funneled to Salvatore Testa. To make matters even more interesting, after this casino was built, it's been said that Scarfo was pilfering money at the casino and controlled all the unions within Trump's casino, and he told Cohn that was the price of doing business. Years later, Trump would try and build a casino in Australia, but the country refused to allow him to even do that there because they noted his mob connections. But we have to go back just a little bit. So when Trump originally wanted to own a casino in Atlantic City, there was supposed to have been an in-depth background check, which could take anywhere from a year to 2 years. Trump didn't want anybody looking into his past dealings too much, and through Roy Cohn was somehow able to speed that process along to a 6-month investigation. However, had a true investigation been done, it would have come up that he, in fact, was in bed with the mob-controlled construction companies, which, as we said, was mentioned in Tony Salerno's racketeering trial. Trump also never mentioned that he was under investigation in Brooklyn for somehow being able to purchase Penn Central Railroad yards on the west side of Manhattan. So in 1980, FBI agents would subpoena Trump and ask about his dealing with JohnGotti, who was a Teamster official described by law enforcement as a very close associate of the Gambino crime family. The FBI believed that Cohn previously had obtained free apartments from other developers. FBI agents suspected that Cohn, who controlled the flow of concrete trucks, might get a free Trump Tower apartment. Trump denied it, but a female friend of Cody's, a woman with no job who attributed her lavish lifestyle to the kindness of friends, bought 3 Trump Tower apartments right beneath the triplex where Donald lived with his wife, Ivana. Cohn stayed there on occasion and invested $500,000 in the units. Trump, Barrett would report, helped the woman get a $3 million mortgage without filing out a loan application or showing any of her financials. Keep in mind, the bitch didn't have a job. How's she getting a $3 million loan? Because it was payoffs. That's all it was. In the summer of 82, Cohn then, under indictment, ordered a citywide strike, but the concrete work continued at Trump Tower after Cohn was convicted of racketeering. He was imprisoned and lost control of that union. Trump then sued the woman for $250,000 for alteration work. She countersued for $20 million and in court papers accused Trump of taking kickbacks from contractors, asserting this could be the basis of a criminal proceeding requiring an attorney general's investigation into Trump. Trump then quickly settled immediately, paying the woman $500,000. Trump said at the time and since then that he hardly knew those involved and there was nothing improper with his dealings with Cohn or the woman. But there's more. In Trump's first big construction project in 1979, Trump would hire a demolition contractor to take down the Bonwit Teller department store to make way for Trump Tower. He would hire as many 200 non-union men to work alongside about 15 members of the House Wreckers Local 95, and that's a Genovese-controlled union. The non-union workers were mostly illegal Polish immigrants, paid $4 to $6 per hour with no benefits, which was far below the union contract. At least some of them did not use power tools, but sledgehammers, working 12 hours a day or more and often 7 days a week. Known as the Polish Brigade, many didn't wear hard hats. Many slept on the construction site. Now, normally, the use of non-union workers at a union job site would have guaranteed a picket line and problems, but not at this site for some strange reason. Work proceeded because the Genovese family principally controlled the union, and it was demonstrated by extensive testimony documents and convictions in federal trials, as well as a later report by the New York State Organized Crime Task Force. When the Polish workers and the union dissidents sued for their pay and benefits, Trump denied any knowledge that illegal workers without hard hats were taken down Bonwit with sledgehammers. At the trial, however, demonstrated otherwise. Testimony showed that Trump panicked when the non-union Polish men threatened a work stoppage because they had not been paid. Trump turned to Daniel Sullivan, who was a labor fixer and FBI rat, who told him, fire the Polish workers. Trump knew the Polish Brigade was composed of underpaid illegal immigrants and that S&A, Tony Salerno and Paul Castellano's concrete-owned firm, was being used. Donald told me he was having difficulties and admitted to me that he was seeking my advice, that he had some illegal Polish employees on the job. I reacted by saying to Donald, I think you're fucking nuts. Sullivan would testify at the time. I told him to fire them promptly if he had any fucking brains. In an interview later, Sullivan told the same exact story. This is from an article. In 1991, a federal judge, Charles E. Stewart Jr., ruled that Trump had engaged in conspiracy to violate fiduciary duty or duty of loyalty to the workers in their union, and that the breach involved fraud, and the Trump defendants knowingly participated in that breach. The judge did not find Trump's testimony to be credible and set damages at $325,000. And the case was later settled by negotiation, and the agreement was sealed. So Trump tried to have it both ways. Well, on one hand, he wanted Cohn to use his Mafia ties to help Trump out. He also tried to deflect FBI investigations by denying Mafia ties and telling the FBI they could insert agents in his casinos if they didn't believe him. And this is Trump playing the FBI. I mean, just on its face, the idea that Trump and his bullshit book, Art of the Steal, because that's what I call it, not Art of the Deal, Art of the Steal, told New Jersey lawmakers unless New Jersey Attorney General John Dengen did a short expedited background check, he wouldn't open a casino. And they needed the city wanted the money, right? So once Trump gets licensed in 82, critical facts that should have resulted in a license denial began emerging in Trump's own books and reports by Barrett, to the embarrassment for licensing. It was an embarrassment for the licensing commission and state investigators who were supposed to have turned those stones over. Forced after the fact to look into Trump's connections to federal investigations, he failed to reveal the other matters. And the New Jersey Division of Gaming and Enforcement investigators circled the wagons to defend their work. First, they dismissed everything as unreliable in regards to mobsters, corrupt union bosses, and Trump's biggest customer, among others, had said to Barrett, to me, to this person, and other journalists and filmmakers about their dealings with Trump. The investigators' reports showed that they then put Trump under oath. Trump denied any misconduct and testified that he couldn't remember. They took him at his word, and that meant his casino license was secure, even though others in the gaming industry, including low-level licensee like car dealers, had been thrown out for far less infractions. His denial of criminal ties and affiliations is a joke. In 1986, 3 years after Trump Tower opened, Roy Cohn was disbarred for attempting to steal from a client, lying and other conduct that an appellate court found particularly reprehensible. Trump testified that Cohn, who was dying of AIDS, was a man of good character who should keep his license to practice law. This was not the only time that Trump went to bat publicly for a criminal. He had also spoken up for Shapiro and Sullivan, and then there was the case of Joseph Weitzelbaum, who was an embezzler who ran Trump's personal helicopter service and ferried his most valuable clientele. Trump and Weisselbaum were so close that Barrett reported in his book that Weisselbaum told his parole officer about how he knew Trump was hiding his mistress, Marla Maples, from his first wife, Ivana, and tried to persuade Trump to end their years-long affair. Trump's casinos retained Weisselbaum's firm to fly high rollers into Atlantic City. Weisselbaum was indicted in Ohio on charges of narcotics trafficking, marijuana, and cocaine. The head of one of Trump's casinos was notified of that indictment in October of 85, but Trump continued using Weisselbaum, which is conduct that, again, should have cost Trump his casino license had state regulators pressed the matter. Because casino owners were required to distance themselves from any hints of any crimes. Just 2 months after that, Trump rents an apartment owned in the Trump Plaza apartment building in Manhattan to the pilot and his brother for $7,000 a month in cash and flight services. Trump also continued paying Weisselbaum's firm even after it went bankrupt. Weisselbaum, who in 1979 had been caught embezzling and had to repay the stolen money, pleaded guilty to 2 felonies, and Donald Trump would vouch for Weisselbaum before his sentencing hearing, writing that the drug trafficker is a credit to the community, who has a conscious, forthright, and diligent personality. And while Weisselbaum Confederates got as many as 20 fucking years in prison, Weisselbaum himself only gets 3 years, serving 18 months before he was released from the urban prison that the Bureau of Prisons maintains in New York City. In seeking early release, Weisselbaum said Trump had a job for him waiting for him when he got out. That's why he's released early. Weisselbaum then moves into Trump Towers, his girlfriend having recently bought 2 adjoining apartments there for $2.4 million. And the cash purchase left no public record of whether any money was actually changed hands, where it did, if it did, and where it came from. As a casino owner, Trump would have lost his license for associating with Weisselbaum. Trump has never been known to use drugs or even drink. What motivated him to risk his valuable license by standing up for a drug dealer remains unclear to this day. And when Trump was asked publicly about this, he said he didn't even know who Weisselbaum was. Once again, this is what Trump does, right? But how about Felix Seder? Have you guys ever heard of him? He's the son of a Russian mob boss. Seder was a Trump senior advisor who Trump kept on even after he was convicted of mob-connected Ponzi schemes and stock fraud. And let's go back to the New Jersey land thing for just 1 second before we wrap up. When Trump was building that casino, right, he needed parking. And the land that he wanted to facilitate for parking was next door, was owned by Phil Testa, which the parcel of land was, I think, a 5,000 square foot lot. And it was purchased 5 years prior to Trump wanting to purchase it. And Phil Testa bought it for $195,000. So when Trump wanted it, he was basically robbed and forced to pay $1.1 million to the Scarfo family. And Trump wanted adjoining acres even further than that. And this is some scumbaggery shit. Trump finds out that all of the other parcel of lands that's around it are owned by a certain person. Do you know what Trump does? He doesn't go and finds out who owns the land. You know what he does? Instead, he pays Nicky Scarfo and the Philadelphia Mafia for that, and they control it. And the people that own the land are like, wait a minute, you don't even own this fucking land. What are they going to do? Nicky will kill him. He does it behind the owner's back, and he negotiated a price with Nicky Scarfo, Sullivan, and Ken Shapiro. They didn't own the land, and then they leased it for 98 fucking years. So I'm sure Trump is, well, no, Trump's probably not paying them shit now, because that's what he typically does. He doesn't pay his bills. Let's just be honest. But later, Shapiro and Sullivan would be banned from the casino industry completely. However, when that investigation was ongoing, the Casino Control Commission knew that the FBI made accusations that Trump was involved, but they never bothered to check. And this entire fiasco got Michael Matthews, the mayor at the time of Atlantic City, indicted and then imprisoned. Then in 1991, Trump breaks the rules again. Trump accepts an illegal loan from his father, Fred Trump, for the casino, which is against federal laws, and it should have gotten Trump's gambling license completely revoked. However, the Casino Control Commission only fined Trump $30,000. When other people had done the same thing, they get thrown out. And that's the power of having friends in the mob. That is the true reality of having friends in the... Listen, If Donald Trump broke all the rules, okay, I get it. Listen, you get away with it. Right on. Do your thing, man. I get it. Cool. But here's the reality. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want people to think I'm picking on Trump. Okay. I'm showing you the power of having friends in the mob and what it can do. If Trump did not have those friends in the mafia, he never becomes what he becomes. Because in those early days when he was really struggling with the casinos, and the casino never made a fucking dime, but he never would have been able to do any of that. That's the power of organized crime. Just shown on just a small level. Just a small level. Crazy, right? Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to finally get to the end of the Philadelphia Mob series. And I know a lot of